Scotty, you wanna? Are we hitting up Sam's machine? Do we know how to do that?
No, we're not doing it.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is December 1st. Here for the Board of Trustees regular meeting.
Call the roll. Mr. Genowine.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Crandall.
Here.
Simcoe here.
Let's stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have anything for the hearing of the public?
No, nobody signed it.
All right.
The minutes aren't on.
Oh, you know what? The minutes aren't on that, are they?
No, they're not on the agenda.
I do have one addition. I don't see that there either, but we do have
the minutes here.
We do have one addition to the agenda, and it's item number 15 under fiscal officer. It's resolution 15-151. When we get to it, we'll discuss it.
We actually got 2 minutes, I think. Remember, we delayed the minutes. We didn't get them at the last meeting, so I think there's 2 minutes we're still looking for.
November.
I think there's 2. Remember, John, you said you hadn't received it. I didn't remember. That was the last
think-
meeting.
Yeah.
So we're behind 2 sets of minutes.
Okay. Make sure that we get those on the next one.
First up is zoning department. And Darrell has a resolution.
Good evening.
Evening,
Just
Darryl.
one resolution, 15-140, authorization to file legal action in the Lucas County Common Pleas Court to enforce the zoning resolution. This is for the property at 3506 King Road. I think you're all familiar with that one. It's the illegal fruit market, I guess, for lack of a better term, on the industrial zone property. Any questions on that?
Oh. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all right.
Any questions, guys? I'll offer resolution 15-140 to file legal action in Lucas County Common Pleas Court to enforce zoning.
Second.
Mr. Genowine.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Thank you.
In the open discussion, Darrell, I did want to ask you guys if we could talk about, related to Darrell, would be that land use plan, maybe discussing that for 16 or...
Yeah.
You want to do that now?
Well, we could, I guess. I don't know if you guys think we need to have that done, but the last time we've done it's been since 2007.
Yeah,
And our township's changed quite a bit since 2007.
No, I think we should do it. I thought we were waiting for John and Darrell to give us a report back on costs.
Okay.
You had an email, but earlier this year, it came up, and
Well, we give a lot of money. What I was thinking of doing, what I was thinking that you might want to look into is, TMCOG at one time or another over the years has offered to help, and we pay them as a member. And number 2 is the Lucas County Planning Commission. I think they've indicated we may be able to contract. I shouldn't say the county commission. I don't know that for sure, the Planning Commission, but I have spoken to people there. They said they'd maybe be able to help facilitate, because we had Pogomar Design do it back in 2007.
We've talked to people at the Plan Commission, and
Okay.
they can't do it.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
They told us that
Okay.
they can't do
and
it.
I'm leery about,
TMCOG?
well, they don't normally do that. I'm worried it'll be just a whole bunch of hours. That's not a normal thing they do.
I have talked to some of the people from 2007 who would like to be back on it, because that have filed, Jim McGowan's and a couple of the engineers that were on, Lori Adams, some other folks that thought that might have an interest. Okay, well, I guess let's go back to You guys, is that something you guys want to look at, or?
I think we should.
I thought that we had talked about this last year when that nursing home went in out on Midshaw, and
Right.
you know, here we are a year later, and I don't think the ball's rolled any. So
Okay.
yes,
I think it was actually before that we were discussing it. Frankly, maybe I misunderstood, but I didn't get much interest from the board in wanting to do that, so it was sort of put on hold. I did have an informal meeting with a couple of people from Manick and Smith earlier this year, maybe even a year ago. Again, it was just very informal, but talking about the land use plan and mentioning that Hogemeyer did ours the last time, and they seem to feel that they can do it for much less. I think probably the way we would want to go would be to put out a request for proposals and
Okay.
see what's out there.
Okay. I'm sure Crandall's cracked, John, but maybe just worth calling Team Agog. I know for a fact they were here one year, and I asked them the same question 3-4 years ago, and I said, "Hey, is this something you guys could help us if we're giving you guys X amount per year?" And they were like, "Absolutely." So maybe in conjunction or to help defray some of the costs.
We'd be glad to talk to them,
like
see what
that.
they could do for us. But no, it's my understanding that the board is agreeing for us to go out for a request for proposals.
No, I'd like to see a budget number.
Well, the proposals will come in and give us the numbers.
Oh, well, okay.
I mean, we don't have to set-
in 2007. Do we know?
30,000. 30, no more than 40.
I think it's close to 40.
Yeah.
But the question is, do we need to do and I don't know the answer, do we need to do as extensive, or is just there areas of the township that need to be updated, and there's certain areas that we really don't have to look at because
It's a good
it
question.
hasn't changed any, and I imagine the areas west is what, but I don't know the answer,
Right.
but.
I know the planning commission. We're not the only township that's having this issue because a lot of they're having a hard time recommending zoning changes, and we've had multiple ones with Mitchell and her road, and they're just saying it needs to be updated, and they're having a hard time deciphering what path we want to take as a township.
Right. Actually, Springfield Townships is even older than ours, and I don't know if this would even be something remotely possible or a cost benefit to it, the two townships to do something together. I mean, from a zoning standpoint, we're very similar. I don't know if that's...
I've driven around Springfield Township, and I kind of take that as an insult. But
Well,
if you think
our
so,
zoning
then-
resolutions are very similar. They're practically twins. Just throwing that out as food for thought.
Why couldn't we just take a look at Team Agog first? Not to have
Yeah.
them do it, but they don't cost us anything, and see what they can do or what they suggest. How we go about it.
Yeah.
Rather than just going right out with. And then maybe by the next meeting, a month from now, maybe
Well,
you can come
you
back
can-
and tell us, what Team Agog's saying. That would be a month, and then maybe they could help lay a roadmap for us.
What we'll do is we'll try to talk to Team Agog and have something back for you on the 15th. We used to verbal whether they're interested, what they can do or not.
Great.
And at that point, we'll say maybe we have to go with Team Agog or request for proposals.
Or maybe
whatever.
a combined effort between
Yeah.
Team Agog and a private.
Remember, the request for proposals, you're not committing to anything.
Right.
They're submitting what they'll do and for how much. And that way we'll have a budget figure of what this will cost. But we'll get on that.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Daryl. Rob, Road Department?
Good evening. I submitted the monthly report for November, primarily focused on just leaf pickup. The crews were out. We're in our final cycle now, but at the time of the report, we were on our third cycle. Leaf pickup is going well. The weather is cooperating, and I foresee the final cycle completing in 10 to 12 days. We did have some other projects complete. We completed some curb work with the contractors in the St. James Woods area. That was for preparation for resurfacing projects in the future to bring up the ADA ramps to standard. And the Burnaby drainage project, virtually just finishing up and mostly complete now. Our new utility worker conducted some training. He went to a 10-hour safety course, OSHA safety course, and conducted a snow and ice control with ODOT safety as well. The service department maintaining their routine fleet maintenance, and they had some training as well. Al and Sean completed their ASC certification and recertification requirements. And then obviously you could see the miscellaneous repairs that they had conducted. That's all I have. If you have any further questions.
I have a question. When you're doing your leaf pickup, and some people, they put out their leaves, and then they've, trimmed a bunch of trees, and they've got a pile of sticks out there too. And do you pick those up?
No, we don't pick up leaves. We advertise for them to not. Sticks to not pick.
Yeah.
To put sticks, grass, or any other type of debris in the leaf piles. What it does, it clogs up the machines, jams everything up, just delays everything.
So that would be then like a zoning issue then, or you got a zoning? I mean, because otherwise this a big mound of sticks is laying out there by the road, and these people just kind of.
If it's a large pile or a hazard pile, or we receive a complaint about it, we do notify them and ask them to remove them off the right of way, or at least out of the street. Occasionally, we'll have an egregious act, and just for safety purposes, we'll take a backhoe if it's that big and push it off. Somebody cut a tree down and set it in the street. But other than that, if it goes past that, we would turn it to Daryl and ask him for assistance on the zoning side to.
I've got some areas around my house. I just see that. That's why I'm asking, and so I guess just get it to Daryl, and then he sends them a letter or something to get their.
Unless it's in the right of way. If it's on their property, yes.
Well, it's always in the right of way. I don't care if someone puts it up next to their house. Who cares?
Well, that would be
Yeah,
a
but-
zoning issue. It's in the right of way. It's
Street issue.
Yeah, right. It's outside of the.
Well, if it's in the right of way, then and there's a pile of sticks out by the curb,
It's in
and
the right of way, we can actually send them.
yeah.
Yes.
If it's in the right of way, Chief Bowman gets them out.
Okay, somebody, just because it just looks bad, and there's other places in the township, I'm sure, you get people that just think they put that out there,
Yeah,
they just kind of decide, I think the township, someone's going to come and get it.
Yeah.
And then I don't think that people should have to be looking at this.
The Ohio Revised Code states that as long as it's not during the periods of our advertised pickup, then it is illegal to dump in the road.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is.
So if it's during our advertised pickup and it's within the right of way and we're still en route
Sure.
to pick it up, then I don't see any other issues with it.
All right.
Any other
Thanks, Rob.
questions? Yep.
We've had certain areas where actually Chief Bowman sends somebody out and lets them know that there's an illegal pile in front of their house. Usually that takes care of it. When a guy in a uniform comes, you listen. Yeah. Next up is the fire department. Chief Clausen.
And if they set them on fire, then we go out and we handle that. Good evening. It seems like we just met each other a few minutes ago. I have two resolutions on the agenda for tonight. The first resolution is 15-139. This is for the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Fund. If you remember, our part-time employees aren't part of the pension system. So them being part-time employees, they can join the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Board or Fund. And if one of them gets hurt or has a catastrophic event, then that board will kick in and help them out. What I need is two trustees to be on that board with two members from the fire department. The only time we would meet if, unfortunately, something did happen and we'd have to sit and meet and talk about taking care of the individual.
Hopefully it never happens, but
Yes,
I'll
sir.
volunteer.
Okay? Mr. Mahoney?
I'll join in.
Thank you. Mr. Genowine?
So we're offering resolution 15-139 to elect two members of the Volunteer Fire Dependents Fund Board.
Yes.
Second.
Hey, Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
The next thing is Resolution 15-149. We've gone through the process, background checks. These are the three individuals that we are putting forward to the Board of Trustees to hire full-time. Greg Shadler, Curtis Bumgardner, and Jamie Sesak, pending their successful completion of the department physical and the psychological profile. All great candidates. I think we'll be very pleased with all three.
I'll move Resolution 15149, authorize employment of 3 full-time firefighter paramedics.
Second.
Calling the roll, Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Mr. Genowine.
Yes.
And unless you have something else for me,
And the run resolution, or the 3-time, we're replacing one, correct?
yes, sir. We're replacing one retirement a couple months ago, and so we're actually just gaining two individuals.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Next up is Chief Bomey with a resolution.
Good evening. I just have one item, and that is to offer Resolution 15-150 to authorize the purchase of a police vehicle. This will be the SRT vehicle that in last year's budget we budgeted $70,000 for. And as you can see, we were able to find an option, a vehicle that is about half that cost before modifications. I will tell you that the $10,000 that we propose for the customization of it for our needs is we didn't want to end up short. In talking to Gary Crothers, in reality, it'll probably be closer to $7,000 to actually customize this vehicle. And I don't know if you have any questions or anything about it.
Can I offer a suggestion to the board? I talked to the chief for a while about this. I've got maybe a plan that I'd like the trustees to talk to John Zeitler, and then John talk to you about, and not voting on. Let's move this off if you guys want to vote on it tonight. But we have a unit, right? Is that when you and I discussed? We've got something already in place.
We've got one. It's very old. I don't know how dependable it is, but yes,
Okay.
we do.
It's up to you guys if you wanted to wait, or we can vote on this tonight. But I talked to the chief today. I thought of something that would be worthy of some discussion for the trustees with Zeitler and with you before, and then we can act on it later. We can act on it tonight either way. It's fine with me.
Do we want to discuss it here, or is it better?
Well, we could, yeah. I mean, I just think we have a unit, and I talked to other townships also. I'm not saying we could do this with the sheriff, but there's other townships and other counties that do partner with the sheriff for their SWAT team. We haven't used the SWAT. It's not. We've got other resources with SWAT teams in the area. This is a lot. Selfishly, it's not selfishly. It's just a lot of money. We've got a unit we can fix up.
Well,
Do we still train with the city?
We do train with the city.
Do they have their own separate vehicle? And
They've got a vehicle. Actually, it's a van. It's a little larger van, but it's still like a regular van. And they can't even fit all their members in it. And they spent over $20,000 to just to adapt it, a van that they already had to their needs, which I thought was a great deal of money. If you remember, I think, Mr. Crandall, you had asked me to check and see what the city was doing and see if they'd be willing to go in on the cost with us. And obviously, after spending that kind of money and customizing that vehicle, that I don't want to be critical, but what we're proposing, what we're purchasing, it's one of those great big ones that you can fit all the members of the SWAT team in there. The doors are hinged super wide so they can get out quickly, which is a safety factor. You can put all kinds of equipment in it. I don't want to be critical of what they bought, but this is a lot more capability of what they got. And it's whatever you think. You guys are the boss. I will tell you that the vehicle that we use. In fact, I advised Mr. Mahoney earlier today. It's a '97 Life Squad that was retired by the county that we acquired in 2000. And so it's 15 years old. It's got a diesel engine, which isn't the best, because in putting together this proposal, we wanted to stay away from the diesel engine. It fits all our needs.
how many members are on the SRT force?
Currently, there's 13. They're down 2 because of the loss of a couple of officers.
And are they normal, regular
patrolmen as
officers.
well, and then if something arises, they get put into the squad as well.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. In fact, all of our members are actually patrol officers. And,
Is your thinking the sheriff? Or
No, I mean, as an example, I know Perrysburg Township contracts with the sheriff. I'm not thinking with the sheriff, but we have other, we talk regionalization and talk about other I mean, do we need, every township and city need a SWAT vehicle? I'm not sure.
Well, I sort of consider us combined with the city. It's unfortunate they went on their own.
we've been tied in with the city for, it started actually for about 16, 17 years with a combined team. And, I'll just offer up that I understand where Mr. Mahoney's coming from, but, we're either all into this or we're not into it at all. Maumee's got a unit. I'm not saying that we need to compare to other jurisdictions. We're not in a competition. In fact, our combined team regularly trains with Maumee, regularly trains with Oregon, rarely, but sometimes trains with Toledo. But anything that goes down, in the suburbs tend to count on each other. Maumee's got, 17,000 people population, and they've got a team and a vehicle and such. Oregon is, 20,000 people, 19,000 people. And with us being combined, we have almost 50,000 people. And as we discussed, this is used in a variety of situations. I know Mr. Mahoney brought up that, we hear about all these active shooter incidents now. Since Columbine in 1999, in situations like school shootings, God forbid, active shooter situations, which are all too common now, you can't necessarily wait for a SWAT team, okay? But there's a lot of other situations too. A SWAT team would respond to that, and depending on the situation, may be used very extensively. But also, you've got barricaded subjects like the one that we had up in Maplewood a few years ago up in the city. You've got high-risk search warrants, high-risk arrest warrants, in which a team has to make forcible entry for the safety and such. I'm not going to tell you it's used a great deal, but if you're going to have an SRT, you have to have the equipment, you have to have the people. These guys train every month. You're either, like I mentioned this morning, you're either all into it or you're not into it at all. And, we've invested a lot of money. These guys with the training, the ammo, 7 members in our team shoot up more ammo than the rest of the department.
20 grand of ammo this afternoon we approved, so only half of truck here.
You
guys are the boss. Whatever you think, I'm just offering up, some.
Well, I think with 50,000 people, we should almost force into it. But if you have,
I'm not against it overall.
it sounds like we just need.
We have a unit. We have a unit.
Yeah.
It's a 97. I mean, my daughter, I have cars in my house that are 97. I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo it. It's a lot of money, and I just thought we could, we just got rid of Freilig's car. It was a 94, that Gran Torino or whatever he had. So I'm not trying to be a pain here. How many miles does it have?
I couldn't tell you that. Mileage isn't as much of a factor as the age, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
And things, I could talk to the mechanics and see what all would have to be done to it. I think it's going to be pretty costly. And how much money do you want to put in a vehicle that is that old? Does it run now? Yes. As I told you this morning, they trained last week and they took it out to the range and such. But the one thing I will mention to you too is eventually you're going to need one if you're going to have an SRT. And I anticipate the life of this thing to be 20 years or better. Because obviously it will not be driven that much.
But we're not going to lose a lot by waiting for the next meeting, are we?
No, I just got the proposal recently. I would assume that It's the same guy that we deal with.
Sounds like you need a little more time.
I need some time to figure it out.
Sure.
Well,
And let Brent and let these guys think if
I'd
it's a good
rather try to
idea.
figure it out tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't know if what you meant
Let's
is
delay it.
going in on the cost with, I don't know if we can really
No,
go
you know,
in on
yeah, I
the
don't
cost.
know. I got a couple thoughts I talked to Zeitler
Okay.
about, and I'd like him to talk to these guys about it, that's all. And then you, of course.
Sure. Sure.
So,
Well, let's delay it.
yeah.
Okay.
But maybe in the meantime, find out what it costs to get that
But
unit
let's-
running full time, like, and fixed up.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'd like to delay it to the next meeting so that we don't just table it and we never bring it up again.
No, that's a good point, you're right.
That'd give us 2 weeks or so to work out.
On a yearly basis, how many times is the SRT unit called out into action?
Maybe 6 to 8 times.
And with
And-
that, half of the members might show up, or is it, hey, we've got something going and everybody's on call? Or?
They operate as a team, so they really need to go out as a full team. There may be somebody on vacation or what, but for a safe entry, if you will, they need to have as many members present as possible. And that's why we're combined with the city. I mean, really, even if you only just go out with 6, I mean, the city currently has 6 members on the team too, and they really need to go out as a full team, especially if you have something like a barricaded subject or something like happened on Maplewood or whatever. In fact, we actually had Maumee out there, as you know, Maumee out there assisting us with that. Where you might be able to get away with a few less members is like a search warrant, conducting some kind of a search warrant or an arrest warrant, and even then it would have to be probably a much smaller building and a lower risk type scenario.
How many do we have, Chief?
We currently have 7.
7?
Yes.
So together you've got 13.
Yes. And at one point it was 15. We had the tragedy where we lost one member, and
And you said the van can handle 13?
this van,
Yeah.
this van could handle. It could probably handle 15, but it certainly would handle 13. Yes. And there's, again, I'm not trying to, we can talk privately. I don't want to sell it to you in front now. I mean, unless you think it's appropriate. But there's a lot of other things that go into this particular vehicle that makes it very appropriate and attractive for us. Just one example: very wide hinge doors, so they can get out of that vehicle very, very quickly, which is a safety factor too. The fact that you can actually stand up in it, because you're going to have 13. Most of them are pretty good sized guys with probably 40 pounds worth of gear on them, and stuff like that too. As opposed to the city's van, which you can't stand up in, you can't, I'm not even sure how much equipment that would carry.
Now, by the way, in your resolution, you had Brondes, but did you get bids from?
I checked with statewide, and on these transits, there's only certain vehicles that they actually do, because they're bought in numbers, state bids on or whatever, and they didn't have that state bid option with a transit. As far as other local dealerships, no, we dealt with the same gentleman that the road department has bought almost all of their vehicles from.
So you basically have one quote then?
We have one quote. That's correct.
Do you want a motion to delay this to our next meeting?
Yeah, you could put it on the table, I suppose, or they could
I hate
withdraw
to
it and bring
table
it back.
it. Couldn't we just say we'll delay it till our next meeting?
Yeah. You could take it off, pull it off the agenda, bring it back next time, next meeting, if they're ready, and the
Well,
trustees are ready.
I think we should, make a decision. Do you see any reason why you can't be ready in 2 weeks?
I just have a whole different plan that I think you guys need to take a look at, that's all. That I'd rather not discuss publicly without getting everything together.
Well, but I guess I'm saying, do you think whatever the plan is, we can, I'm trying to set a definite date that we'll reconsider this.
The next meeting will be fine.
Well, I don't.
Do we
know
have
if
to
it's
retract
enough
this,
time.
or
I don't know.
we didn't offer the motion, did we?
No one offered a
So-
resolution. It could just be pulled from the agenda by
Yeah.
the administrator.
It's easy enough.
Yeah, but can you guys?
Sure.
resolve
I mean, if I,
in
yeah,
2 weeks?
I-
It's
really nothing to resolve.
Well,
I don't want you to put me on the spot with this thing. I've got a couple of thoughts that I think can, that need you guys' thought. And if you guys can figure it out in 2 weeks and I think it's a good idea, then great. If you don't, then we won't have an answer next week meeting.
I'll submit to you that there is no great urgency with this. As you said, we have a running vehicle, although I don't know how dependable it's going to be down the road. So, even if you want to address this after the first of the year, we wanted to get this in because we budgeted it for 2015. Sure. But if you want to, delay it even a couple of meetings, on my end, there's no. I don't want to tell you we don't need it, but there's no great urgency with it. So whatever you're comfortable with is.
Well, and again, I guess I feel bad too, Chief, because here you put it on, and I know you worked really hard on getting these numbers squared away, and you're great at that. And I'm not trying to shoot you down with this thing. I think, I hear the need, I understand it. I just would like to just bring it back for these guys through some reflect. I like it. Thanks. Reflection.
Okay, whatever
We'll
you
put
think.
it on the next agenda if we're ready at that time already.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Next up under the administrator is a liquor permit transfer for 5215 Monroe Street. This is a ownership change and name change for what we know as the Star Bar. New name will be Shorty's Back 40. It's, I think, being bought by the owners of Shorty's Barbecue there in the front, the Mancy family. And I have letters from the chief of fire and police. They have no objections to this transfer. Once again, this is one of those, if you take no action, that goes through. So, okay, hearing no action. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal officer, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Simcoe.
We've got a number of resolutions. I'll try to move through them and pause if we need to. But this first one is Resolution 15141, and it's that allowing us to make a request to the auditor for the advancement of taxes collected in 2016. And we generally need this money coming in. We have to make this resolution so we can kind of pay our bills and that. And so they make advances to us, and that's what this is. We do this every year to get some money get the cash flow starting rather than waiting until all their collections come in and then they send us money. It may not be until May or something until they send us money, and we need it sooner than that.
I'll move resolution 15141, request advancement of taxes for the 2016 fiscal year.
Second.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Next, Resolution 15142, and it's some additional appropriations in various accounts, and you can see it. Most of them are really relatively small in the big picture. And you can glance at them and
I'll offer Resolution 15143, advance of funds.
142.
Excuse me, 142.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Can we have these emailed with the agendas? I mean, because obviously, and I think this is probably the only time of year when we have large numbers and things. And, when I'm looking at stuff going from natural gas to overtime and things, I would rather have a better,
It's just that time of year where some of the line items are falling short.
Yeah.
There's extra money left, so we're just moving around to pay bills and stuff.
But you could send that out before.
And again, I haven't memorized, and I know Sam gave me a cheat sheet once in terms of what account is which departments and those sort of things. So if I could look at it ahead of time, I could kind of go through and be more comfortable with it.
Yeah. We can, that can be done.
Okay.
Are these all, like the natural gas accounts going to overtime, is that the same budget? You know
Yes,
what
they're
I'm
all the
asking?
same
Is
budget.
that,
For example, the natural gas one, there's extra money in the natural gas line items for moving it over.
but is that for the fire or
Yeah,
police? Or?
yeah, 210 is fire.
So you wouldn't take it from the police and go to the
No,
fire?
we're not allowed to do that.
No, that's what I'm asking. Yeah,
Any other questions on it? We've got a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Next resolution, 15-143, advance of funds. And this is having to do with some of our grant funds.
In this case, we're returning the advance that the fire department would advance money to the grant fund, and when the grant comes in, we can again.
I'll offer resolution 15-143, advance of funds.
Second.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
And next resolution, 15-144, and this is appropriation for the transfer of funds from the fire fund to the fire capital fund, which was approved in resolution 15-132. We're just now making the actual transfer. The trustees previously approved it in resolution 15-132.
What are we doing on this one?
Again, this is where we're transferring $400,000 from the fire operating to the fire capital.
Okay.
And that's to pay for the balance of the truck? Is that what that is? The 500 for the truck, or we had 100 or whatever in the account?
Right, and this will give us the balance then to get the truck, second truck next year also.
Got it.
But this, when I read this, I'm seeing from account capital improvements to account to the fire fund. Is that backwards or?
No, the money's coming from the 210 transfer out, going into the 435 transfer into this fund. It's,
Fire fund.
yeah, it's going out of, it's being transferred out of the 210 police fund. and
No,
into the
fire.
Fire fund.
I'm sorry, fire fund into the 435 fire capital fund.
That's not what I'm reading, but
Oh, wait a minute. No, John's raising a
Yeah.
point here. This says going from the capital projects to the fire fund. That's what mine is saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is up there too.
yeah.
So should this be going from the fire fund to the capital fund?
Yes.
And that's not what that says.
No.
Sure it does. The from account is 210, second column.
Okay.
And to account is 435, which is capital.
Well, again, I don't know the accounts. What I'm looking at is the description. The description says capital projects from to description fire fund.
There's a line item in the fire fund, and the description on the line item is transfer out capital projects. And then there's a line item in the capital projects fund that says called transfer from the fire fund. So we're moving the money
From,
from transfer out to the transfer in.
yeah, where's the budget?
Well, I mean, accounting was never my strong suit, but at least if we had these prior to the meetings, I could look at it and ask these questions.
We could do that. I always send them out to
Okay. Again, I get what we're trying to do.
We
and I
don't-
don't have
yeah.
a problem with it. I just want to make sure it's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
I'll offer resolution 15-144, transfer of funds.
Second.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
And then resolution 15-145, and and this is an additional appropriation is needed to return the advance from the grant fund to the police fund. An additional appropriation is needed to disperse the entire amount of the senior levy collected. There's a little bit of dribbles that came in for the senior levy, so we shipped that over to them. And then the $214.78, we just passed part of one of these resolutions had that number in it.
I'll offer Resolution 15-145, appropriation from unencumbered balance.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And the Resolution 15-146, reduce appropriations in various accounts due to shortfalls in the anticipated grants and revenue. We need to reduce the appropriated expense amounts.
I'll offer 15-147, or no, 146?
Yes.
46, yes.
Reduce appropriations in various accounts.
Second?
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And Resolution 15-147, establish federal grant, revenue, and expense accounts. So we're just establishing some accounts for these things.
I'll offer Resolution 15-147, establish federal grant revenue and expense accounts.
Second.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
And the last resolution is a resolution.
Second to last, we're adding one more.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Resolution 15-148. It's a resolution for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum amount of $7 million for the purpose of refunding at a lower interest cost certain of the township's outstanding various purpose improvement bonds, Series 2010, dated March 23rd, 2010. And remember, we talked about this a couple meetings ago, where if we would do this refinancing of the bonds, we can save approximately $12,000 a year in our payments. And over the remainder of the life of the bond, it's about $180,000. And this savings also includes, we'll have the it'll be roughly $12,000 because when you sell the bonds, but that's the estimate. And that does already take into account the expenses associated with this. So our net is going to be roughly $12,000 a year. So I think it's a good thing for us really to do, and that because we have some savings here. And in a year, it's not that big a deal, but over the life of this stuff, it's $180,000.
What interest rate did we get?
Well, we haven't sold them yet. We're anticipating it to be 2 years.
And I know we've used this Sudzina in the past. Did we get quotes on this stuff, or
This type of
professional services? We don't have to.
we don't, and these are the people that did the original bond
Yeah.
issue, and I happen to have worked with them with the county. You don't really need to get quotes for this because you need their expertise. It's not the dollar amount that would be the quote, but these people have worked with various bond agencies around the country. They're going to help us, and this will come up in the next resolution. They'll help us with the rating agencies where we have to make a presentation why we're in good shape to do these bonds. And the cost is usually pretty close, but what we did is you go with the people that have the knowledge of how to do this. And there's not a lot of people in the state.
Yeah, but getting bids usually keeps people honest and keeps them sharp, and you just double check that way.
Yeah, what I do is I look around what other people are paying.
Over and over is not a good practice in any business.
Right. But I look around and see what others charge, and it's pretty competitive. It's a percent of the bonds that they sell. But once again, it's the expertise. It's like getting a quote for a lawyer. You can get a quote for a lawyer in a lower amount, but he's not a very good lawyer. He might not win your lawsuit. And so,
well, I might hire a different attorney if I was going in for a parking ticket rather than murder. So, I mean, it's good to get bids, and it's good to double check things.
Right.
And I know we've used this guy in the past, and I just think it'd be worth our time seeing who else does it. And I'm not on this time. Obviously, we're too far along, but
right.
just for future reference.
Okay.
I'll offer resolution 15-148, the issuance of sale of bonds in the maximum amount of $7 million for the purpose of refunding at a lower rate, lower interest costs certain to the township's outstanding various purpose improvement bonds.
Second. But I would like to remind you, I think I had mentioned it when you brought this up, Dave. I'd like to see the savings go into somehow, when you're all done, get it into the equipment budget for the fire department.
Well, the savings will automatically go into the fire fund, and then what the trustees want to do with it, you can put it in the equipment, but it will automatically go into the fire fund.
What's that?
The savings automatically go into the fire fund, then the trustees can appropriate it where they want to.
Just remind
Yeah.
me that we get it in there,
Right.
whatever we have to do.
Yeah, I'll call the roll. Mr. Genowine.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
And then lastly, resolution that was just added, 15-151, authorize the administrator to enter an agreement with Sudsina, I guess, and Associates for financial advisory services.
And this is what John just talked, or Trustee Genowine just talked about.
I'll move resolution 15-151 to authorize the administrator to enter into an agreement with Sudsana and Associates for financial advisory services.
Second?
I'll call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
No.
And that's all I have.
Nobody signed for hearing the public non-agenda items. Before we adjourn, I'd just like to make a reminder that there's budget hearings tomorrow at, is it 3 o'clock?
All right. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 5:46.
Second?
I'll call the roll. Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
All right.